10 things you need to know about the Galaxy S22 Ultra before buying. If you're the kind of person that likes massive screens on your phone, the best specs, or a way to use your phone without touching it, then the S22 Ultra is a very exciting option for you. This device is a follow-up to the insanely popular S21 Ultra and the Note20 Ultra. So if you're considering upgrading from one of these devices, or an even older one, there are a few things you need to know before you upgrade. But before we go through the list, be sure to like this video and subscribe so you won't miss any of our future tech videos. We have a lot of smartphone videos and more on the way that you won't want to miss. Hello Technophiles, welcome to Tenzi's Tech. I'm Scott Leffler, and this is our list of 10 things you need to know before buying the S22 Ultra. Number 10. An S Pen. What makes this phone the successor to the Note20 Ultra, other than its squared-off design, is that it includes an S Pen. Even though the S21 Ultra was compatible with the S Pen, without having internal storage for it, you were forced to buy a special phone case for a convenient way to bring it with you. Having the S Pen storage in the phone is the one feature that really makes a Note a Note. And since Samsung didn't release a Note last year, the addition of the S Pen on the S22 Ultra gives Note 10 and 20 users something to upgrade to. This year's S Pen is also a big improvement over the last generation, as its latency was reduced by almost 70% and is currently below 3 milliseconds, giving you an experience very close to pen and paper. Including the S Pen is also really impressive when you consider the next factor. Number 9. The size. The S22 Ultra is actually slightly smaller than the S21 Ultra and Note20 Ultra. The smaller sizes are down to less than 1/10 of an inch. The size is still big and is very close to the S21 Ultra and Note20 Ultra, so if you're coming from one of those, you won't likely notice a difference. The size allows for a huge 6.8-inch display, which is the same as last year's S21 Ultra, but a 1/10 of an inch smaller than the Note20 Ultra. That shouldn't make much of a difference, as 6.8 inches is already really big compared to other smartphones. But with Note users wanting their screens as big as possible, we thought this was noteworthy information. Pun intended. And speaking of the display, number 8, the display. If you watched our video on the S22 and S22 Plus, we had a lot to say about the display, and nearly all of it applies to the S22 Ultra. However, it isn't as interesting with the S22 Ultra. The phone uses a Edge Quad HD Plus Dynamic AMOLED 2X Infinity O display, which sounds impressive but is nothing new. This is essentially the same tech that's been used in the Note 20 and S21 Ultra. The screen is a blinding 250 nits brighter, bringing it up to 1,750 nits, which is about 17% brighter than last year, but nothing earth-shattering. It also has a refresh rate of up to 120 Hz, but again, this is nothing new. This isn't bad. Samsung is known for their incredible screens, and this is no different. But that's the thing. If you're coming from an S21 Ultra or Note 20 Ultra, it's no different. There actually is one thing that is new, and that's the adaptive refresh rate, which can go down to as low as 1 Hz. So if you're doing something that doesn't have a lot of motion, this will help save battery life. Which brings us to number 7, the battery. Thankfully, Samsung has included a 5,000 mAh battery in the S22 Ultra, unlike the other S22 models, which all saw a small size cut. It's the same size as the one in the S21 Ultra and is 20% bigger than what the Note 20 was packing. Considering that the phone is slightly smaller than both the S21 Ultra and Note 20 Ultra, and a lot of the space is used up by the S Pen, which wasn't an issue on the S21 Ultra, this is very impressive. With all that said, the S22 Ultra is more power-hungry than the S21 Ultra, and there have already been some battery tests done which all show that the S22 Ultra doesn't last as long as the S21 Ultra. There may be an update coming that will further improve the battery life, but we don't know anything for certain. Fortunately, the max charging speed was also increased from 25 watts to 45 watts, making this the first Samsung Ultra phone to have 45-watt fast charging. This should speed up the charging time, giving you more flexibility in how you use your phone. All in all, battery life isn't going to be as good as last year, but it isn't taking a major hit. So where's all that power going to? Number 6. Performance. It's going to some fancy new chips. The S22 Ultra is one of the first flagship smartphones to have the Qualcomm 8 Gen 1 chip inside. This, of course, only applies to North America, as almost all other parts of the world are getting it with an Exynos 2200 chip. Let's first start with the Qualcomm model. The phone performs most everyday activities without a problem, and the experience is extremely smooth. On the other hand, when it comes to gaming and heavy activities, it isn't as big of an improvement over the Qualcomm 888 chip as we would have liked to have seen. It's still great, but it falls short of Apple's Bionic chip. The Exynos 2200 is a different story. Samsung labeled the release of the chip as "playtime is over," so you would think that you're getting a monster of a chip, right? Well, not so much. It's a great chip, much better than last year's Exynos 2100, but it underperforms compared to the Qualcomm version. We also have to keep in mind that future updates could change this, so we'll have to wait and see how it turns out. But this isn't the only change made to the hardware in this device. Number 5. Memory. It's now the second year in a row where Samsung doesn't have expandable storage inside their S-line models. But with already big storage options, that shouldn't be an issue. The S22 Ultra storage goes all the way up to a terabyte, which is double the maximum storage of both the S21 Ultra and the Note20 Ultra. The only weird part is that the base S22 Ultra model comes with only 8 GB of RAM, whereas all the S21 Ultra models had at least 12 GB. This is probably Samsung's way of making you spend a bit more money on the higher spec versions. There's also no 16 gig RAM option anymore, but to be honest, that seemed more like a vanity spec anyway. With all this storage, this will give a lot of space to store the photos and videos from the cameras. Number 4. The cameras. The cameras on the S21 Ultra were already in a league of their own, so there wasn't much Samsung needed to do to improve them. On paper, camera specs look nearly identical to the S21 Ultra, but are better when compared to the Note20 Ultra. The biggest improvement is that the sensor is 25% bigger, which allows for much more accurate color information and improved low-light performance. The selfie camera is the same 40 megapixels as it was on the S21 Ultra, but a major improvement over the Note20 Ultra's 10 megapixels. The biggest change, at least if you're constantly using social media, is the agreement between Samsung and companies like Snapchat and Instagram. This will allow you to use your main camera directly in those apps, and will therefore produce higher quality photos than before. Number 3. Software. One thing we can always count on a Samsung phone having is great software, and the S22 Ultra is no different. It's shipped with the Android 12 as well as the One UI 4.1, the most up-to-date version of both the Android and the One UI. What separates Samsung from Apple and many other smartphone companies is the amount of freedom they offer you. You can personalize your home screen, the UI colors, and other things to the fullest, as you can let your creative side go wild. Samsung also committed to providing 4 years of Android OS updates, which is a year more than previous generations. Samsung wants to catch up to Apple in terms of long-term support, and we're all for it. It'll also commit to 5 years of security updates, so if you're worried about that, you'll be happy to hear this. While the UI does allow you to change the look, you're stuck with the physical design, so let's see how that stacks up. Number 2. A new design. Samsung has a certain design language for their flagship phone, and what's odd about the S22 Ultra is that it follows more with the Note design language than the S series. They also made a return to the curved edge screen, which was absent from the S21 lineup and the smaller S22 devices. We don't know how to feel about this one, as many people prefer a clean, flat display, but it can help with hand gestures if that's your thing. The design is pretty subjective, so you'll have to decide for yourself whether this is an improvement or not over previous models. Some users have also pointed out the corners are actually too pointy, almost sharp even, so this phone may end up poking holes in your pocket in more ways than one. Number 1. Prices. The Samsung Ultra phones can be called a lot of things, but budget-friendly is not one of them. The situation's no different when it comes to the S22 Ultra. It starts at $1,200 for the base model, but it can go even higher if you want more RAM and storage. We would have to say that this is a fair price when taking into consideration that the S21 Ultra was also $1,200 and you had to buy an S Pen separately, and the Note 20 Ultra started at $100 more. It's great to see that Samsung isn't pushing its prices into oblivion like they kinda did in 2020, and that they think about the customers. So, while it's still an expensive phone, you won't have to mortgage one of your kidneys yet. So, what did you think about our list? Are you going to be upgrading to the S22 Ultra? Let us know in the comments below. And while there, be sure to like the video and share it with all your friends and family. If you liked the video, you would also like these other videos. And if you've already seen them, then be sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our future tech videos. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.